The helicopter's rotor blade sliced through dawn air 6 inches from Rylan Shore's head. He didn't flinch, just kept pushing the industrial mop across the concrete helipad, water pooling around steel landing skids that cost more than his yearly salary. The Chicago skyline stretched behind him, glass towers catching first light like broken mirrors. His gray uniform hung loose on shoulders that once wore different colors. Better colors. The elevator chimed. Celeste Langford stepped onto the rooftop in heels sharp enough to puncture confidence. Black pencil skirt. White blouse that probably cost what Rylan made in a month. Hair pulled back so tight it looked painful. She moved like someone who'd never been told no, and wouldn't recognize the word if she heard it. Her assistant scrambled behind her, juggling a tablet and coffee cup, failing at both. "Why is there a janitor on my helipad?" Celeste's voice cut through morning air. Not a question, an accusation. Rylan kept mopping. He'd learned years ago that invisibility was survival. The locket under his uniform pressed against his chest. Miri's photo, inside. Her gap-toothed smile, the only thing that mattered anymore. Everything else was just noise. "Excuse me." Celeste's heels clicked closer. "Did you not hear me, or are you just stupid?" If you've ever felt invisible at work, overlooked and underestimated, you need to hear what happens next. But first, drop a comment below telling me about a time someone underestimated you. I read every single one. Rylan lifted his head, met her eyes, said nothing. Her jaw tightened. "Security didn't tell me we hired mutes. Move, you're in the shot." She turned to her assistant, voice rising. "Where's Trevor? He was supposed to pre-flight the helicopter an hour ago." "He called in sick, ma'am." The assistant's voice shook. "Food poisoning from that sushi place you recommended. I don't care if he's dying. This investor meeting determines whether we survive the quarter. I need to be downtown in 40 minutes. Celeste checked her watch, a gesture so sharp it looked violent. "Someone page the backup pilot." "There is no backup pilot, ma'am. Budget cuts last month." "Of course there isn't." Celeste laughed, cold and brittle. "Perfect. Absolutely perfect." She spun, scanning the rooftop like she could will a solution into existence. Her gaze landed back on Rylan, stayed there. Something shifted in her expression. Not kindness, but calculation. "You," she pointed at him. "You ever fly one of these?" Rylan's hand stilled on the mop handle. The question hung in the air between them. Absurd and dangerous. He should say no, should stay invisible, should protect what little he'd rebuilt. "A couple times," he said instead. The words came out quiet, certain. Wrong for a janitor to sound that certain about anything. Celeste's eyes narrowed, then she laughed, sharp, mocking, the sound of someone who'd perfected cruelty through practice. "Right, and I'm the Queen of England on weekends." She stepped closer, smile turning vicious. "Tell you what, janitor, fly this helicopter safely to the downtown pad, and I'll marry you. That's how impossible your little claim sounds." Her assistant choked on coffee. Staff members gathering for the morning shift froze mid-conversation, eyes darting between the CEO and the man holding a mop. But Rylan didn't react, didn't defend himself. He just placed the mop against the helipad railing with the careful precision of someone who understood balance and weight distribution. Walked toward the helicopter like he'd done it 1,000 times before, because he had. His hand traced the fuselage, fingers finding rivets and panel seams in the pre-dawn darkness without looking. He peered through the cockpit window, eyes scanning the instrument panel with the systematic efficiency of a checklist he'd memorized long ago. Celeste's amusement faltered. "What are you doing?" Rylan moved to the other side of the aircraft, crouched, examined the tail rotor assembly, stood, his jaw tightened. "Who are you?" Celeste's voice had changed, uncertainty creeping in where confidence used to live. "Just a janitor." Rylan opened the cockpit door without waiting for permission. "Hey, you can't just..." He slid into the pilot's seat. Hands moved across controls like muscle memory, checking fuel levels, hydraulic pressure, electrical systems. Everything fluid, natural, impossible for someone who cleaned floors for minimum wage. Then he stopped. His hand hovered over the collective pitch lever. A red light blinked on the upper right corner of the instrument panel. Small, easy to miss unless you knew what you were looking for. Rylan's blood went cold. He flipped 3 switches in rapid succession, checked a reading, flipped 2 more. The red light stayed on. He leaned back, staring at the warning indicator like it had personally betrayed him. Celeste climbed onto the skid, peering inside. "What's wrong?" "Step back," Rylan said. Not loud, not aggressive. But the authority in those 2 words made her obey before her brain caught up. He exited the cockpit, moved to the engine compartment, opened the access panel with the confidence of someone who'd built these machines from scratch. His fingers traced wiring harnesses, found the stabilizer connection point. "Ma'am," her assistant whispered, "that light wasn't on during yesterday's inspection." "How do you know what you're doing?" Celeste's question came out smaller than she probably intended. Rylan ignored her, followed a wire bundle deeper into the compartment, found what he was looking for. His stomach dropped. He straightened, turned, looked directly at Celeste Langford, really looked at her, for the first time since she'd stepped onto that rooftop. "It's an electrical feedback loop from the stabilizer servo," he said quietly. "Someone disconnected the safety ground. When you applied collective pitch for takeoff, the system would have registered it as a rotor jam. The computer would have tried to compensate by overcorrecting." He paused. 3 seconds after liftoff, you'd have spiral rolled into the Chicago River. The rooftop went silent. Celeste's face drained of color. Her assistant grabbed the helipad railing for support. Security guards who'd been watching with bored amusement suddenly stood straighter. "You're saying," Celeste's voice cracked, "you're saying I could have died?" Rylan nodded once. "But how could you possibly know that?" She stepped closer, studying him like he was a puzzle she'd been given the wrong pieces for. "How does a janitor know advanced helicopter systems?" For the first time, Rylan let her see something in his eyes. Not defiance, not pride, just the weight of a story too heavy to carry alone. He opened his mouth to answer. The elevator chimed behind them. Danton Cray stepped onto the helipad. Tall, expensive suit. Smile that belonged on a corporate motivation poster. Wide, empty, calculated. Chief Operating Officer. The man who'd spent 5 years climbing over bodies to get 3 feet from the CEO's chair. He surveyed the scene with the practiced assessment of a predator, checking if the kill was clean. His eyes found Rylan, and for just a fraction of a second, so brief most people would have missed it, Danton Cray's perfect smile cracked. Recognition flickered across his face. Then fear. Then something colder. "What's going on here?" Danton's voice was smooth. Too smooth. Celeste explained quickly. The missing pilot, the malfunction, how the janitor had somehow diagnosed a fatal mechanical failure. Danton listened, nodded in all the right places. Then he looked at Rylan with eyes that held a very specific kind of hatred. "He's a janitor," Danton said slowly, like explaining simple math to a child. "He probably tampered with the helicopter to get attention. People like him do that, cause problems so they can swoop in and play hero." Rylan's hands clenched. Not from anger, from recognition. Because Danton Cray wasn't just any executive. Danton Cray was the reason Rylan Shore became a janitor in the first place. Years ago, before Aeravax, before the mop, and the gray uniform, and the night shifts, Rylan had been someone else. Someone with rank, with respect. A decorated aviation specialist in the Army Air Corps who trained pilots and designed tactical flight protocols. Someone whose file was buried after a scandal that destroyed everything. A scandal manufactured by the man standing 15 feet away. Danton knew exactly who Rylan was, and Rylan knew that Danton knew, but neither man said a word. Celeste looked between them, sensing something she couldn't name. "He saved my life," she said, voice harder than before. "Whatever his job title is, he just prevented a catastrophe." Danton's smile widened. "Did he? Or did he create one?" He gestured to the helicopter. "Check the maintenance logs. I bet you'll find his fingerprints all over that bird from his quote-unquote cleaning duties." "That's not," Celeste started. "Men like him get lucky once," Danton interrupted smoothly. "Don't trust him, Celeste. You're too smart for that." Rylan stepped forward, just one step, but the way he moved made 3 security guards shift their weight. "Check the black box diagnostic logs before you talk," Rylan said quietly. The confidence in his voice, the absolute certainty, made Celeste's breath catch. Danton's smile evaporated, Because Rylan knew something specific, something a janitor shouldn't know. You said you've flown helicopters before, Celeste said, turning to Rylan. Her tone had changed completely. When? Rylan held her gaze. I didn't say I stopped. Wind swept across the rooftop, cold, sharp, carrying the smell of aviation fuel and distant rain. Celeste felt something shift in her chest, a recognition she couldn't name. This man wasn't a janitor, couldn't be. Everything about him was wrong for the uniform he wore, the posture, the knowledge, the way he moved with economy and precision. Rylan, she said softly, testing his name in her mouth for the first time without mockery. Who are you? Before he could answer, Danton pulled out his phone, typed something quickly, put it away. 30 seconds later, the elevator opened. 3 security guards stepped onto the helipad. Arrest him, Danton ordered, pointing at Rylan. Tampering with aircraft equipment, endangering executive personnel, trespassing in a restricted area. Wait, no, Celeste's voice rose. You can't just... I can, and I am. Danton's mask dropped for just a moment, revealing something cruel underneath. He's a minimum-wage janitor who got caught where he doesn't belong. The guards moved toward Rylan. He didn't run, didn't fight. Just stood there with his hands visible, jaw tight, eyes burning with something that looked like resignation mixed with rage. They grabbed his arms, started pulling him toward the elevator. Celeste stepped forward. Stop this, right now. I'm ordering you to... You're ordering? Danton laughed. Celeste, your father put me in charge of security operations. These men answer to me, not you. As the guards dragged Rylan past her, he turned his head, just enough to meet her eyes one last time. You're about to find out, he said quietly. Then they pulled him into the elevator. The doors closed, and Celeste Langford stood alone on the helipad at sunrise, watching a helicopter that almost killed her, staring at a spot where a janitor had been, realizing she didn't know a single true thing about what just happened, except that Danton Cray was terrified, and terrified men were dangerous. What secret do you think Rylan is hiding? Drop your theory in the comments and wait until you see what happens when Celeste starts digging into his past. Celeste's hands shook as she held the diagnostic tablet. The numbers didn't lie, couldn't lie. The helicopter's black box data painted a story in cold, merciless code. Electrical fault in the stabilizer servo, disconnected safety ground, catastrophic failure imminent at -3 seconds post-takeoff. She would have died. The janitor, Rylan, had saved her life. Her assistant hovered nearby, pale and quiet, like the rooftop had become a crime scene, which, Celeste realized with growing dread, it probably was. Pull the maintenance records, Celeste said, voice steady despite the tremor in her chest. I want to know who touched that helicopter in the last 72 hours. Ma'am, Mr. Cray already confiscated. I don't care what Danton confiscated. Override it. Use my executive access code. The assistant's fingers flew across the tablet, paused. Ma'am, the logs they're encrypted. Above your clearance level. Celeste's blood went cold. Since when? Since this morning, 4:17 a.m. The assistant looked up. 17 minutes before you arrived on the roof. The implications crashed over Celeste like breaking glass. Someone had locked down evidence before she could see it. Someone with authority higher than hers. Someone who knew exactly what she'd find. She turned toward the elevator where they'd taken Rylan. The door was closed, stainless steel reflecting morning light. Innocent, empty. But her gut twisted with certainty. Nothing about this was innocent. Find him, Celeste said. Find the janitor. I want to talk to him. Security already processed him into holding. Then get him out of holding. Mr. Cray gave explicit orders. I don't care about Danton's orders. Celeste's voice cracked across the rooftop. She took a breath, forced control back into her tone. That man saved my life. The least I can do is hear his side before we throw him in a cell. The assistant nodded quickly and disappeared into the elevator. Celeste stood alone on the helipad. Wind pulled at her hair, her carefully constructed armor of silk and steel. She walked to the helicopter, placed her palm against the cold metal fuselage, felt the vibration of potential energy, stored power, mechanical grace held in check by physics and human engineering. How had Rylan known? The question circled like a vulture. He'd diagnosed the problem faster than her certified mechanics could have, moved through that cockpit like he'd built it himself, spoke in technical language that belonged to specialists, not custodial staff. She pulled out her phone, opened the employee database, typed Rylan Shore. His file appeared, sparse, almost suspiciously sparse. Name, Rylan Dakota Shore. Position, night shift sanitation technician. Hire. Date, March 14, 2021. Emergency contact, Mirage A. Shore, daughter, age 7. Education, high school diploma. Previous employment, redacted. Background check, cleared. Performance reviews, exemplary, punctual, quiet, no incidents. That redaction. Why would a janitor's previous employment be redacted? Celeste's thumb hovered over the screen. She clicked deeper, accessing HR files that technically required approval, but that she could bypass with executive privilege. Another wall, this one labeled sealed by federal request. Her breath caught. Federal, not corporate, federal. What kind of janitor had a federally sealed employment history? Behind her, the elevator chimed. She spun, expecting her assistant. Instead, Danton Cray stepped back onto the rooftop, alone this time, hands in his pockets, expression carefully neutral. "Celeste," he said warmly, "I wanted to check on you. That must have been traumatic." She studied him, really studied him. The perfect Windsor knot in his tie, the Italian leather shoes, the way his smile never quite reached his eyes, like it was painted on by someone who'd studied smiling but never felt it. "Who is he?" Celeste asked. "Who?" "Rylan Shore, the janitor." Danton's expression didn't change, but something flickered behind his pupils, fast, dark, gone before she could name it. "Nobody, just a guy we hired off a temp service. Did background checks, came back clean. His file's been federally sealed. Probably a clerical error. Since when do clerical errors require federal intervention?" Celeste stepped closer. "You know him, Danton. I saw your face when you recognized him." "I don't know what you're talking about. You're lying." The word hung between them, sharp, dangerous. Danton's smile finally dropped. When he spoke again, his voice had edges. "Be very careful, Celeste. Your father left me in charge of operations for a reason. He trusts me. The board trusts me. You're brilliant with investors and product vision, but security, personnel management, that's my domain." He paused. "Don't overstep." "He saved my life." "Maybe, or maybe he sabotaged the helicopter so he could play hero. Ever think of that?" "You're not that stupid, Danton, and neither am I. Someone locked down the maintenance logs this morning before I arrived. Someone with higher clearance than mine. Someone who knew exactly what I'd find if I looked." Celeste crossed her arms. "Want to guess who that someone might be?" Danton's jaw tightened. "You're implying—" "I'm not implying anything. I'm stating facts." She held up her phone, showing Rylan's file. "This man has a federally sealed employment history. He diagnosed a fatal helicopter malfunction in under 3 minutes. He moves like military, talks like military, and you're terrified of him." "I'm not—" "You are. I saw it. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to tell me the truth, or I'm going to dig until I find it myself." Danton stared at her for a long moment. Then he laughed, cold, humorless. "Your father was right about you, too curious for your own good. My father's been dead for 6 months." "Exactly." Danton turned toward the elevator. "Leave this alone, Celeste. Trust me. You don't want to go down this road." "Why?" He stopped, looked back over his shoulder. "Because some roads don't have exits." Then he disappeared into the elevator, leaving Celeste alone with wind and questions and the growing certainty that Danton Cray was hiding something big enough to kill for. She looked back at the helicopter, at the disconnected wire that would have sent her spiraling into the Chicago River, at the empty space where Rylan had stood, calm and certain and impossible. Her phone buzzed. Text from her assistant. "Found him. Security holding. Level B3. Celeste didn't hesitate. She strode toward the elevator, heels clicking like a countdown. The holding room smelled like industrial cleaner and stale coffee. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead, casting everything in sick yellow. Rylan sat in a metal chair, bolted to the floor, hands resting on the table, posture relaxed despite the circumstances. He looked up when Celeste entered. No surprise. no fear. Just that same steady gaze that had unsettled her on the rooftop. "You shouldn't be here," he said quietly. "Probably not." Celeste pulled out the chair across from him, sat. "But here I am." Silence stretched between them. She studied his face, strong jaw, eyes that had seen things. A scar cutting through his left eyebrow that she hadn't noticed before, and around his neck, barely visible under his uniform collar, a silver chain holding something small. "What's in the locket?" she asked. His hand moved instinctively to his chest, protective. "My daughter." "Mary?" He nodded. "How old?" "7. Where's her mother?" "Gone." The word came out flat, final, not an invitation for further questions. Celeste leaned forward. "Who are you, Rylan Shore?" "You read my file." "Your file's been redacted by federal order, so I'll ask again. Who are you?" He held her gaze. Something shifted in his expression. A calculation, a weighing of costs and consequences. "Why do you care?" "Because you saved my life. Because Danton Cray is terrified of you. Because nothing about you makes sense." She paused. "And because I think someone tried to kill me this morning, and you're the only person who knows the truth." Rylan leaned back. The chair creaked. He looked at the ceiling, then back at her. "You really want to know?" "Yes." "It won't make your life easier. My life stopped being easy 6 months ago when my father died and left me fighting Danton Cray for control of a company I helped build." Rylan studied her for a long moment. Then he nodded, decision made. Army Air Corps, aviation tactics and engineering, 12 years active duty, decorated, trained pilots, designed flight protocols for high-risk operations. Celeste's breath caught. "You were military." "Was?" "What happened?" His jaw tightened. "Someone framed me for negligence during a training exercise. Helicopter went down. 2 pilots injured. Investigation found I'd signed off on faulty maintenance." He paused. "I hadn't, but the paperwork said I did. My career ended before I could prove otherwise." "Who framed you?" Rylan's eyes locked onto hers. "Your chief operating officer." The room tilted. Celeste gripped the table edge. "Danton? He was military liaison to private contractors back then, had access to all our files, all our protocols." Rylan's voice stayed level, but fury burned underneath. "He needed someone to take the fall for a weapons deal gone wrong. I was convenient. Young, talented, disposable. Why you specifically?" "Because I'd discovered discrepancies in his supply chain records, equipment going missing, money flowing to offshore accounts." Rylan leaned forward. "I was going to report him." "He reported me first." Celeste's mind raced. "If that's true, why didn't you fight back? Why let him destroy you?" "I did fight, for 8 months, lost anyway." His voice dropped. "By the time the dust settled, my wife had left. I had a newborn daughter, and my name was dirt in every aviation circle that mattered. So I disappeared, became nobody, took work where I could find it." He gestured around the holding room. "Night shift janitor at a tech company pays enough to keep Miri fed. You've been here 4 years. I didn't know Danton worked here when I applied. By the time I figured it out, I needed the job too badly to leave." He paused. "And honestly, I liked being invisible, safe, anonymous. Until this morning." Until this morning. Celeste's mind churned through implications. The helicopter, the sabotage. "You think Danton?" "I don't think, I know. That disconnected ground wire, that's not mechanical failure. That's someone with aviation knowledge deliberately creating a fatal malfunction that would look like pilot error." Rylan's voice hardened. "That's Danton's signature move. Make it look like someone else's fault." "But why target me?" "You tell me. Who benefits if you die?" The answer hit her like cold water. "Danton, my father's will gives operational control to whoever's next in the executive chain if I die before 40 without an heir." "That's..." She stopped. "That's Danton." "There's your motive." Celeste stood abruptly, pacing. "This is insane. You're talking about murder, corporate conspiracy. I'm talking about a man who already destroyed one career to cover his tracks." "You think he'd hesitate to destroy a life?" She spun to face him. "If you knew all this, why didn't you say something? Why stay silent?" "Because I have a 7-year-old daughter who needs her father alive. Because I have no proof." Because men like Danton Cray win. His voice cracked slightly. I learned that lesson the hard way. Celeste stared at him. At this man who'd been invisible for 4 years, mopping floors and staying quiet while the person who ruined him walked free. At the father who chose survival over justice because his daughter needed him more than the world needed truth. Something cracked in her chest. Something that felt uncomfortably like guilt. I'm sorry, she whispered, for how I treated you, on the rooftop, for mocking you, for... Don't. Rylan's voice cut through her apology. You didn't know. And honestly, I'm used to it. That doesn't make it right. No, but it makes it survivable. The door opened. A security guard stepped inside. Ma'am, Mr. Cray is asking for you. Says it's urgent. Celeste looked at Rylan, at this man who saved her life and lost everything, at the only person who knew the truth about Danton Cray. Let him go, she said. The guard hesitated. Ma'am, Mr. Cray's orders are overruled by mine. Release him, now. But that's not a request. The guard unlocked Rylan's restraints. Rylan stood slowly, rubbing his wrists. Celeste stepped closer, voice low. Go home, stay with your daughter. Don't come back here until I figure this out. And if Danton comes after me, he won't, not while I'm watching. Rylan's eyes searched hers. You barely know me. Why take this risk? Because you're right. Some roads don't have exits, but I'd rather die trying to find one than live on my knees. For the first time, Rylan almost smiled. Your father would have liked you. You knew my father? Only by reputation? He hired honest people, built a good company. Rylan headed toward the door, paused, looked back. Be careful, Ms. Langford. Danton Cray doesn't just destroy careers. He erases people. Then he was gone, leaving Celeste alone in the holding room with fluorescent lights and the growing certainty that nothing would ever be the same again. She pulled out her phone, opened her secure messaging app, typed a message to her attorney, her accountant, and her father's oldest friend, the 3 people she still trusted in a world suddenly full of knives. Need to talk. Urgent. Don't tell anyone. Then she walked out of the holding room and straight toward Danton Cray's office. Because if he wanted a war, she'd give him one. The rooftop is just the beginning, but the real danger? It's already inside the building, and it knows exactly where Rylan's daughter goes to school. The elevator ride to the executive floor felt like descending into a tomb. Celeste's reflection stared back at her from polished steel doors. Perfect hair, perfect suit, perfect mask hiding the chaos underneath. Her father used to say that corporate warfare required 2 things: immaculate presentation and ruthless precision. She'd mastered the first. The second was about to get tested. The doors opened. Danton's secretary looked up. Surprise flickering across her face before professionalism smoothed it away. Ms. Langford, Mr. Cray didn't mention you'd be... He didn't know. Celeste strode past without slowing. I'm mentioning it now. She pushed through Danton's office door without knocking. He sat behind a desk large enough to land aircraft on. Phone pressed to his ear, eyes lifting to meet hers. Whatever he saw in her expression made him cut his call short. I'll call you back. He set the phone down carefully. Celeste, to what do I owe? Cut it. She closed the door behind her, locked it. We're past pretending. Danton's smile stayed painted on. But his posture shifted, subtle, defensive, like a predator recognizing another predator in its territory. I don't know what you mean. Rylan Shore, Army Air Corps, aviation specialist, court-martialed for negligence he didn't commit. Celeste placed both hands on his desk, leaning forward. You framed him, destroyed his career to cover your own tracks. And this morning, you tried to kill me using the same playbook. Silence dropped between them like a blade. Danton's expression didn't change, but something behind his eyes went very, very still. That's quite an accusation. It's not an accusation, it's a fact, and I have evidence. She didn't, not yet, but the bluff landed clean. Danton stood slowly, buttoning his suit jacket. Evidence, really. From where? The janitor who's been lying about his credentials? The maintenance logs you don't have clearance to access? He walked to his office window, hands in pockets, surveying the Chicago skyline like a king examining his domain. You're grasping, Celeste. Grief makes people paranoid. Don't you dare bring my father into this. Your father trusted me, built this company alongside me, left me in charge of operations because he knew. Danton turned, and for the first time, the mask cracked. Real anger bled through. He knew you were brilliant with vision, but weak with execution. Too emotional, too impulsive. He left me the company, not you. He left you a title. I run the machinery. Danton's voice dropped, venomous. You handle investors and press conferences while I make the actual decisions that keep this place profitable. That's how it works. That's how it's always worked. Celeste forced herself to breathe, to stay calm, to channel her father's precision instead of her own rage. Then explain the helicopter. Mechanical failure happens. Not like this. Not with a manually disconnected safety ground that requires aviation engineering knowledge to prove it. Danton stepped closer. Go ahead. Pull the logs, run the investigation, see where it leads. His smile returned, colder than before. Oh wait, you can't. Because the evidence is locked behind clearance you don't have. Funny how that works. I'll get a court order. No, you won't. Because that requires filing a lawsuit, which requires public disclosure, which tanks our stock price and destroys the company your father built. Danton tilted his head. So, here's the real question. Are you willing to burn everything down just to prove you're right about a janitor? Celeste's hands clenched. He was right. Public legal warfare would destroy Aeravax faster than any mechanical failure. Her father had spent 30 years building this company. She couldn't torch his legacy on intuition and circumstantial evidence. But she couldn't let Danton win either. Stay away from Rylan Shore, she said quietly. Why would I go near him? He's nobody. I mean it, Danton. You touch him. You threaten him. You even look at him wrong. And I will dedicate every resource I have to destroying you. Danton laughed, genuinely amused. You're protecting a janitor. That's adorable. I'm protecting someone who saved my life, something you notably didn't do. I wasn't on the roof. No, you were too busy sabotaging the helicopter. The accusation hung naked between them. No more dancing, no more pretense. Danton's smile vanished completely. When he spoke again, his voice carried the weight of real threat. Be very careful, Celeste. You're playing a game you don't understand with stakes you can't afford. Your father knew when to fight and when to fold. Learn from him. My father never folded to men like you. Your father made deals with men like me. That's how he survived. Danton moved to his desk, pressed a button on his phone. Now get out of my office before I have security remove you. This is my company. Not according to the operational charter. Check the fine print your father signed 3 years ago. In matters of security and personnel, I have final authority. He looked up, eyes flat and merciless. You want to fight me? Go ahead. But you'll lose, and you'll lose publicly. And when you do, I'll make sure everyone knows it was because you let emotion override judgment. Celeste wanted to scream, to flip his desk, to do something violent and cathartic and stupid. Instead, she straightened her jacket, smoothed her hair, locked her expression into the same practiced neutrality her father had taught her. This isn't over. Yes, Celeste, it is. She walked to the door, unlocked it, paused with her hand on the handle. You made one mistake, Danton. What's that? Rylan Shore survived you once. He'll survive you again. She left before he could respond. Rylan stood outside Miri's school, hands in pockets, watching the playground through chain-link fence. Second graders ran in chaotic patterns, their joy sharp and unfiltered and loud. Miri hung from monkey bars, dark braids swinging, laughing at something her friend said. She looked so much like her mother, it hurt. Mr. Shore? Rylan turned. The school principal approached, folder in hand, expression carefully concerned. Do you have a moment? Is Miri okay? She's fine. But I wanted to discuss something. The principal gestured toward the building. In my office? Red flags raised in Rylan's mind, but he followed. The office smelled like old paper and industrial carpet. The principal closed the door gently. We received a call this morning, she said carefully, from someone claiming to be conducting a background check on you. They asked about Miri, her schedule, her routines. Rylan's blood went ice cold. Who called? They said they were with a private security firm. Aeravax Corporation. She paused. They were very thorough, very insistent. What did you tell them? Nothing. Our policy is strict about releasing student information without parental consent. She handed him a business card. But they left this. Said you should call them to clarify some discrepancies in your employment file. Rylan took the card, plain white, no company logo, just a phone number and 3 words, call us immediately. His hands trembled, not from fear, from fury. They'd gone after Miri. Danton Cray had gone after his daughter. Mr. Shore? The principal's voice pulled him back. Is everything okay? Should I be concerned? Rylan forced himself to breathe, to think, to not do something that would land him in prison and leave Miri alone. No, it's fine. Just a misunderstanding at work. Are you sure? Because if there's any threat to Miri's safety, there's not. The lie tasted like ash. But I'd appreciate if you didn't release any information about her to anyone, no matter who calls. Of course. The principal studied him. You're a good father, Mr. Shore. Miri talks about you constantly. Whatever's happening, don't forget that. Rylan nodded, not trusting his voice. Outside, he stood in the parking lot, staring at the business card. Every instinct screamed at him to run, to grab Miri and disappear into whatever hole they could find. But he'd been running for 4 years, and running hadn't saved him, hadn't protected Miri, hadn't stopped Danton Cray from finding them anyway. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. He answered. Hello, Rylan. Danton's voice oozed through the speaker like oil. How's your daughter? Rylan's grip tightened until the phone case creaked. You stay away from her. I'm not anywhere near her, but other people are. Nice school, good security. Well, relatively good. Amazing how many blind spots exist in parking lots, isn't it? If you touch her, you'll what? Report me? To who? With what evidence? You're a janitor with a sealed military record and a court-martial on your resume. I'm a decorated COO with connections in every agency that matters. Danton's voice dropped. Here's how this works. You disappear. Tonight, take your daughter and go. Quit quietly. No lawsuits, no talking to Celeste, no making waves. And if I don't, then accidents happen. School buses malfunction, children wander off playgrounds, terrible tragedies that no one can quite explain, but everyone remembers. Pause. Your choice. The line went dead. Rylan stood frozen in the parking lot, rage and terror warring in his chest. Around him, parents collected their children, oblivious to the war being waged in silence. His phone buzzed again. Different number. Text message from Celeste. Are you and Miri safe? He stared at the message. At the first person in 4 years who'd looked at him like he mattered, who'd believed him, who'd risked her own position to protect him. His thumb hovered over the keypad. Before he could respond, movement caught his eye. Black sedan, tinted windows, parked 3 spaces away, engine running, watching. Rylan's military training kicked in. He memorized the license plate, noted the angle of the windows, counted potential exits. Then he walked calmly toward the school, entered through the main door, and made his way to the playground. Miri, he called. She ran over, braids bouncing, smile bright as morning. Daddy, you're early. Yeah. Thought we'd get ice cream. Sound good? Really? Her eyes went wide. But it's a school day. Sometimes school days need ice cream. He took her hand, squeezing gently. Come on, sweetheart. They walked out through the back exit. Through the teacher's parking lot, away from the black sedan. Rylan didn't look back, but he felt the eyes following them, and he knew, with absolute certainty, that running was no longer an option. Danton Cray had declared war, and wars required soldiers, not janitors. Time to remember which one Rylan Shore actually was. Miri's life is on the line. Danton's playing for keeps, and Rylan Shore is about to stop hiding. What happens when a broken soldier decides he's done being invisible? Celeste's penthouse overlooked Chicago like a throne room above clouds. Floor-to-ceiling windows, minimalist furniture, everything designed to project power, control, distance. But tonight, standing alone in her living room, with city lights bleeding through glass, she felt small. Her phone buzzed for the 16th time. Danton's name flashing. She declined the call. Again. Her laptop sat open on the marble counter. displaying file after file of Aeravax corporate records. She'd been digging for 3 hours, searching for anything that connected Danton to the helicopter sabotage. So far, nothing. Just perfectly clean paperwork, meticulously documented decisions, and a trail so spotless it screamed guilt. Nobody was that clean, not in corporate America. Her doorbell chimed. She froze. It was past 10 p.m. Building security should have called up first. She approached the door cautiously, checked the video feed. Rylan stood in the hallway, daughter asleep in his arms, duffel bag over his shoulder. Celeste opened the door immediately. "What happened?" Danton called, threatened Miri. "Black sedan followed us from school." Rylan's voice stayed level, but his eyes told a different story. "I can't go home, can't go anywhere predictable. He paused. "I didn't know where else to go." "Come in." Celeste stepped aside. "Quickly." He entered and she locked the door behind him, engaging the deadbolt and security chain. Rylan laid Miri gently on the couch, tucking his jacket around her small frame. The tenderness in the gesture cracked something in Celeste's chest. "I'm sorry," Rylan said quietly. "I shouldn't have come here. Shouldn't drag you into—" "Stop!" Celeste poured 2 glasses of water, handed him one. "You saved my life this morning. The least I can do is give you a safe place to sleep. This isn't just about gratitude anymore. Danton's escalating. If he finds out I'm here, then he finds out." She sat across from him, exhaustion bleeding through her practiced composure. "I'm tired of running scared in my own company. My father built Aeravax from nothing. Danton Cray doesn't get to turn it into his personal criminal empire." Rylan studied her. "You believe me, about everything." "I ran the helicopter diagnostics myself, pulled in an independent aviation engineer. He confirmed your assessment, manually disconnected safety ground, sabotage designed to look like pilot error." She paused. "You were right. Someone tried to kill me, and the only person with motive and expertise is Danton. Belief doesn't equal proof." "No, but it's a start." Celeste opened her laptop, turned it toward him. "I've been digging through financial records. Danton's moved $17 million through offshore accounts in the past 6 months. Shell corporations. Routing numbers that lead nowhere. Classic money laundering patterns." Rylan leaned forward, scanning the data with practiced efficiency. "These transfers, they're timed to major company announcements, product launches, investor reports. Insider trading? Maybe, or something bigger." He pointed to a specific transaction. "Look at this one. 2 days before your father died, $5 million moved to an account in the Caymans." Celeste's breath caught. "My father died of a heart attack." "Did he?" Rylan's voice gentled. "Or is that what the autopsy said?" The implication hung heavy. Celeste's hands trembled. I think Danton Cray has been playing a long game. I think your father's death was convenient. I think the helicopter malfunction was convenient." Rylan met her eyes. "And I think you're the last thing standing between Danton and complete control of this company." Celeste stood abruptly, pacing. "This is insane. You're talking about murder, multiple murders, corporate conspiracy on a scale that powerful men have gotten away with for centuries." Rylan's voice stayed calm. "You wanted proof. Start by exhuming your father's body. Run a full toxicology panel. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But if you're right, then I've been working alongside my father's killer for 6 months." Her voice cracked. "Trusting him. Taking his advice. Letting him—" She stopped, pressed her palms against the window, staring at the city below. Rylan stood, moved beside her, close, but not touching. "I know what it's like to have your entire world revealed as a lie, to realize the people you trusted were the ones destroying you." He paused. "You survive by choosing what matters more, the truth or the comfort of ignorance. And what did you choose?" "My daughter, every time." He glanced back at Miri, still sleeping peacefully. "Because when everything else burns, the people you love are the only things worth protecting." Celeste turned to face him. Really face him. This man who'd been invisible, who'd lost everything, who'd chosen survival over vengeance for 4 years, who'd walked onto her rooftop this morning and shattered her carefully constructed reality with 2 words. "I can." "What was it like?" she asked quietly. "Losing everything?" Rylan's jaw tightened. "Like drowning in concrete." slow, inevitable. Watching everyone you respected believe lies about you. Watching your career dissolve, your marriage collapse, your name become synonymous with failure. He paused. The worst part wasn't the loss. It was the invisibility afterward. Becoming someone people looked through instead of at. I did that to you this morning. You didn't know. That's not an excuse. Celeste's voice dropped. I mocked you, belittled you, made you the punchline of a cruel joke because I could. Because that's what powerful people do to those they consider beneath them. She swallowed hard. I'm sorry. Genuinely, I was wrong. Rylan held her gaze. Apology accepted. That's it? No lecture about privilege, no righteous anger? What would anger change? He shrugged. You can't undo this morning, neither can I. All we can do is move forward differently. Something shifted in Celeste's chest, a recognition she couldn't name. This man, this janitor who wasn't really a janitor, possessed a quiet strength she'd spent her entire life searching for in boardrooms and investor meetings and failed relationships. Her phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen. Unknown number, she answered. Hello? Breathing on the other end. Then Danton's voice, cold and precise. I know he's with you. Celeste's blood froze. I don't know what. Don't insult both of us. Building security logged him entering your penthouse 20 minutes ago. Did you really think I wouldn't find out? Pause. Here's what happens next. You send him away. Tonight, or tomorrow morning, the board receives a comprehensive report about your erratic behavior, questionable judgment, and inappropriate relationship with subordinate staff. You're bluffing. Am I? Try me. See how fast your credibility evaporates when I paint you as an unstable CEO sleeping with the help. His voice turned venomous. Your father's legacy will become a punchline, and you'll be removed from the company before lunch. The board won't. The board does what I tell them. I've spent 5 years cultivating relationships while you played visionary. They like you, Celeste, but they trust me. Pause. Last chance. Send him away, or watch everything burn. The line went dead. Celeste stood frozen, phone pressed to her ear, rage and helplessness warring in her chest. Rylan watched her carefully. What did he say? He knows you're here. Threatening to destroy my reputation if I don't send you away. Then send me away. What? He's right. Protecting me will cost you everything. Rylan moved toward Miri. I'll disappear. Take Miri somewhere he can't find us. You focus on saving the company. No. The word came out sharp, certain. Absolutely not. Celeste. If I send you away, Danton wins. If I let him dictate my choices through fear, then my father's company is already lost. She stepped closer. You said I had to choose between truth and comfort. I choose truth, even if it costs me everything. It will cost you everything. Then I'll rebuild. Her voice steadied. But I won't rebuild on a foundation of cowardice. Rylan stared at her. Something flickered across his face. Surprise, respect, maybe the beginning of something deeper. You're sure? I'm terrified, but I'm sure. He nodded slowly. Then we fight. Together. Together, Celeste echoed. Behind them, Miri stirred on the couch, mumbling something in her sleep. Both adults turned, watching the child who'd become the center of a war she didn't know existed. She looks like her mother, Celeste said softly. She does. Rylan's voice carried old grief. Her mother left when things got bad. Said she didn't sign up for scandal and poverty. I don't blame her. Not everyone can handle watching their life collapse. But you did. I had Miri. That made the choice easy. He looked at Celeste. You have a company, employees, legacy. That's your Miri. That's what you fight for. Celeste felt tears prick her eyes. She blinked them away, refusing vulnerability. How do we prove he killed my father? Exhumation, toxicology, but that takes time and legal authorization. What about the helicopter, the maintenance logs? Encrypted above your clearance. We'd need someone with system access. I know someone. Celeste grabbed her phone. My father's head of IT, retired last year but still has credentials. He hated Danton. Might help if I explain the situation. Call him, now. She did. The phone rang 4 times before a sleepy voice answered. Celeste? It's midnight. What? Marcus, I need help. It's about Danton Cray, about my father. She took a breath. And I think Dad was murdered. Silence on the other end. Then, I'll be there in 30 minutes. The line went dead. Celeste looked at Rylan. Now what? Now we wait, and we prepare for what happens when Danton realizes we're not backing down. What will he do? Rylan's expression went dark. Whatever it takes. Men like Danton Cray don't have limits, only targets. As if summoned by prophecy, Celeste's phone lit up. Text message from an unknown number. She opened it, a photo, Miri's school, taken from outside the fence. Timestamp, 20 minutes ago. Caption, accidents happen, choose wisely. Celeste's hands shook. Rylan moved beside her, saw the photo. His entire body went rigid. He sent someone to her school, Celeste whispered. Even after. Rylan's voice carried lethal calm. Which means he's desperate, which means we're close to something he can't afford us to find. We need to move her somewhere safe. Agreed. Rylan lifted Miri gently, her head resting against his shoulder. Somewhere he won't think to look, Celeste thought quickly. My father had a cabin, northern Michigan, off-grid, no paper trail connecting it to me. He bought it under a trust. Can we get there tonight? If we leave now? Rylan nodded. Then let's go. They gathered essentials quickly. Laptops, files. Miri's stuffed bear that she couldn't sleep without. Celeste changed into jeans and a sweater, discarding her CEO armor for something practical. In the garage, they loaded into her car, a nondescript sedan she kept for personal errands instead of the corporate town car Danton could track. As they pulled out, Celeste caught movement in her rearview mirror. Black sedan, same one from the school. We're being followed, she said quietly. Rylan glanced back. I see it. Can you lose them? In Chicago traffic? Maybe. Then do it. Celeste pressed the accelerator. They're running out of time, out of options, and out of places to hide. But when a CEO and a broken soldier join forces, Danton Cray is about to learn that some battles aren't won with money, they're won with truth. And the truth is hunting him. The cabin materialized from darkness like something forgotten by time. Celeste killed the headlights 3 miles back, navigating by memory and moonlight, down roads that barely qualified as roads. Pine trees pressed close on both sides, branches scraping the car roof in whispers that sounded like warnings. She'd lost the black sedan somewhere around Grand Rapids, weaving through side streets until surveillance became impossible. But Rylan hadn't relaxed his vigilance. Even now, carrying sleeping Miri from the back seat, his eyes scanned the tree line like a soldier expecting ambush. Inside, Celeste whispered. Quickly. The cabin smelled like cedar and old summers, her father's refuge from corporate warfare, the place he'd disappeared to when stress became unbearable. She hadn't been here since the funeral, hadn't been able to face the memories without him. Now those memories felt like armor. Rylan laid Miri on the couch, checking windows and exits with practiced efficiency. No security system? Dad liked being off-grid, said technology was just another leash. Celeste locked the door, engaged the deadbolt. There's a landline in the kitchen, no internet, no cameras. Good, harder to track. Rylan completed his perimeter check, returned to the main room. We're secure, for now. For now, Celeste echoed. She sank into her father's favorite chair, exhaustion crashing over her in waves. What's our next move? We wait for your IT guy. Get those maintenance logs. Build a case that can't be dismissed. Rylan sat across from her, elbows on knees. Then we go public before Danton can bury it. Public means destroying the company. Keeping quiet means letting him win. Celeste closed her eyes. My father spent 30 years building Aeravax. He put everything into making it matter, making it good. If this goes public, scandal, murder allegations, corporate conspiracy, the stock price will crater, investors will flee, everything he built will collapse. And if you stay silent, then his killer runs the company he died protecting. The impossible choice hung between them, legacy or justice, memory or truth. What would he choose? Rylan asked quietly. Celeste opened her eyes. He'd choose truth. Always. Her voice cracked. He used to say that companies come and go, but integrity is forever. I thought he was being philosophical. She laughed bitterly. Turns out he was being literal. Then honor that. Choose truth. Let the company burn if it has to. Easy for you to say. It's not your legacy. No, it's yours. Rylan leaned forward, and you get to decide what that legacy means. Do you want to be remembered as the woman who protected a murderer to save stock prices? Or the woman who burned everything down to expose him? Celeste stared at this man who'd lost everything and somehow found the strength to keep fighting. How do you do it? Stay so certain? I'm not certain. I'm terrified. He gestured to Miri, sleeping peacefully. But fear doesn't excuse cowardice. My daughter deserves a world where justice matters more than convenience. So does yours. I don't have a daughter. You have a company, employees who depend on you. A father's memory that deserves protection. He paused. That's your daughter. That's what you fight for. Something cracked in Celeste's chest. Tears she'd held back for 6 months, suddenly pressing forward. She tried to stop them, tried to maintain control, but the weight was too much. She broke. Quiet sobs that shook her shoulders. Grief for her father, terror for the future, rage at Danton, shame at her own blindness. Rylan moved beside her, didn't speak, didn't try to fix anything, just sat there, solid and present, while she fell apart. I miss him, Celeste whispered. Every day, every decision. I keep thinking, what would Dad do? And now I find out he might have been murdered and I didn't even notice. What kind of daughter doesn't notice her father was killed? The kind who trusted the people around her. That's not weakness, that's being human. It feels like weakness. It's not. Rylan's voice carried certainty. Danton Cray is a professional liar. He fooled your father for years. He fooled military investigators. He fooled an entire court-martial board. You're not weak for believing him. You're human. Celeste looked up, tears tracking mascara down her cheeks. Why are you being so kind to me after how I treated you? Because you apologized. Because you chose truth over comfort. Because you're trying to be better. He paused. That's all anyone can do. She held his gaze, saw something in his eyes that mirrored her own brokenness. Two people shattered by the same man, trying to piece together something resembling justice from the fragments. Thank you, she whispered. For what? For not letting me quit. You weren't going to quit. You were just scared. He almost smiled. There's a difference. A phone buzzed. Celeste checked hers. Text from Marcus, her father's IT director. Got the logs. You need to see this. Calling the landline. 30 seconds later, the kitchen phone rang. Celeste answered. Marcus? Celeste. His voice shook. I pulled the helicopter maintenance logs like you asked, but I found something else. What? Your father's autopsy file. Someone accessed it 6 months ago. Not medical examiner, not family. Someone from inside Aeravax corporate network. Celeste's blood froze. Who? Danton Cray. The cabin went silent except for wind through pines. Why would he access my father's autopsy? Celeste asked. I don't know, but he didn't just view it. He modified it. Modified how? He removed toxicology results from the official report, replaced them with standard cardiac panels. Marcus paused. I found the original file in server backups. Your father didn't die of a heart attack, Celeste. He was poisoned. The world tilted. Celeste gripped the counter for support. What kind of poison? Synthetic cardiac glycoside. Mimics heart attack symptoms. Undetectable unless you know to look for it. Metabolizes quickly. By the time the autopsy was performed, it was gone. But you just said, the original toxicology panel was run within hours of death, before the poison fully metabolized. Found trace amounts, not enough for conclusive proof, but enough to warrant investigation. Marcus's voice hardened. Danton buried it, altered the records, made sure no one would question the heart attack narrative. Celeste's hands trembled. Can you prove this? I can prove he accessed and modified the file. I can prove the original toxicology results existed. Whether that's enough for criminal prosecution, he hesitated. That's above my pay grade. Send everything to this number. Celeste rattled off her secure email. Every file, every log, every piece of evidence you can find. Already done. Celeste, Marcus's voice softened. I'm sorry. Your father was a good man. He deserved better. He did. She paused. Thank you, Marcus, for everything. Be careful. If Danton finds out I helped you, he won't. Stay off grid for a few days. I'll contact you when it's safe. She hung up, stood frozen in the kitchen, moonlight casting shadows across linoleum. Rylan appeared in the doorway. What did he find? My father was murdered. Poisoned. Danton altered the autopsy to cover it up. The words came out flat. Mechanical. Like if she didn't feel them, they couldn't be real. Rylan crossed the kitchen in 2 strides. Celeste. He killed my father. Her voice cracked. He sat across from me at board meetings, gave eulogies at the funeral, pretended to comfort me, and he killed him. Rage exploded through her grief, pure incandescent fury that made her hands shake and her vision narrow. I'm going to destroy him, she whispered. Whatever it takes, I'm going to burn Danton Cray to the ground. Good, Rylan said simply, but we do it smart, not emotional. I'm past smart. I want him to suffer. He will. But if we move recklessly, he'll bury this evidence like he buried your father's toxicology. We need a plan. Celeste forced herself to breathe, to think, to channel rage into something useful. Okay, plan. What do we need? Media, law enforcement, multiple channels simultaneously so we can't silence them all. Rylan pulled out his phone, old burner model. I know a journalist, investigative reporter who specializes in the corporate crime. She's looking for her next big story. You trust her? I trust her hatred of corruption. He started typing. I'll send her the files. She'll verify independently, then publish. Once it's public, Danton can't bury it. He'll retaliate. Let him. The more he flails, the more guilty he looks. Celeste nodded. What else? FBI white-collar division. I have a contact from my military days. If we present evidence of corporate fraud, murder, and conspiracy, they'll open an investigation. Can they move fast enough? If the evidence is solid, yes. Then do it. Send everything, now. Rylan typed quickly, attaching files, writing brief explanations. His fingers moved with military efficiency, precise, fast, certain. Celeste watched him work. This man who'd been invisible, who'd spent 4 years hiding from the person who destroyed him, who was now risking everything, again, to help her fight. Why? She asked quietly. He looked up. Why what? Why help me? You could have stayed hidden, kept Miri safe. Let me fight this alone. Rylan held her gaze. Because you believed me when no one else did. Because you chose truth over convenience. Because... He paused. Because hiding didn't save me before. Won't save me now. If I want Miri to grow up in a world where justice matters, someone has to fight for it. Even if it costs you everything, especially then. Celeste felt something shift between them. Recognition, respect, something deeper that she didn't have words for yet. Before she could name it, Miri stirred in the next room. Daddy? Her voice came out small, scared. Where are we? Rylan moved immediately. Celeste followed. They found Miri sitting up on the couch, clutching her stuffed bear, eyes wide in unfamiliar darkness. We're at a cabin, sweetheart, Rylan said gently. Ms. Langford's father's cabin. We're safe here. Why did we leave home? Because... Rylan glanced at Celeste. Because Daddy needed to help a friend with something important. Miri looked at Celeste. Are you Daddy's friend? I'm trying to be, Celeste said honestly. Miri studied her with the unsettling perception children possess. You have sad eyes, like Daddy. Celeste's throat tightened. Yeah, I guess I do. It's okay to be sad sometimes, Miri said with the wisdom of someone far older than 7. Daddy says feelings are just information. They tell us what matters. Your daddy's very smart. I know, Miri yawned. Can I have pancakes for breakfast? Rylan laughed softly. If there's pancake mix, yes. Okay. Miri lay back down, already half asleep. Night, Daddy. Night, Ms. Langford. Night, sweetheart. They returned to the kitchen. Celeste leaned against the counter, emotions too tangled to name. She's incredible, Celeste said. She is. Pride filled Rylan's voice. She's the reason I survived. I never wanted kids, always thought they'd interfere with my career. Celeste laughed bitterly. Guess I know where my priorities were. Priorities change, circumstances change. Rylan paused. You still have time to figure out what matters. Do I? Because right now it feels like everything's collapsing. Everything is collapsing. That's how you know you're fighting the right battle. Celeste looked at him, at this broken, brilliant man who'd lost everything and somehow remained standing. What happens after? If we win, we rebuild, differently, better. And if we lose? We lose together. Rylan's voice stayed steady. That's better than losing alone. Celeste's phone buzzed. Email from Marcus. Subject: everything. She opened it. Hundreds of files. Maintenance logs showing Danton's access to the helicopter systems. Financial records documenting offshore accounts. The original autopsy report with toxicology findings. Communications between Danton and unknown contacts discussing problem solving and eliminating obstacles. It was all there, everything they needed. We have him, Celeste whispered. Rylan checked his phone. Journalist confirmed receipt. FBI contact wants to meet tomorrow. Wheels are moving. Then tomorrow. Her phone rang. Unknown number. She answered cautiously. Hello? Celeste. Danton's voice, but different now. Stripped of pretense, just raw, venomous fury. I underestimated you. Won't happen again. It's over, Danton. I have everything. The files, the proof. By tomorrow, every law enforcement agency and media outlet will know what you did. Silence. Then, you think you've won? I think you're finished. Funny, I was about to say the same thing. His voice dropped to something cold and lethal. I'm looking at a very interesting photo right now. Your car. Parked outside a cabin in northern Michigan. Want to guess who else is looking at it? Celeste's blood froze. You're bluffing. Am I? Check your driveway. She moved to the window, peered through curtains. 3 vehicles, black sedans, headlights off, parked at the end of the long driveway, blocking the only exit. I told you, Danton said quietly. Accidents happen, cabins burn, families disappear. And tomorrow, when investigators find the wreckage, they'll discover evidence that you and your janitor boyfriend were embezzling funds, orchestrating a cover-up, manufacturing false allegations to hide your crimes. Pause. By the time forensics sorts through the ashes, I'll be CEO and you'll be a cautionary tale about paranoia and fraud. The line went dead. Rylan appeared beside her, saw the vehicles, understood immediately. We need to move, now. There's no other way out. The cabin backs onto wilderness. Then we go through wilderness. Rylan grabbed Miri, wrapping her in a jacket. Celeste, grab everything essential. Phones, files, keys, move. They'll catch us. Not if we move smart. His military training kicked in. We've got maybe 5 minutes before they close in. That's enough. Celeste grabbed laptops, phones, her father's old hiking pack with emergency supplies. Her hands shook, but she forced them steady. Rylan was already at the back door, scanning the tree line. Stay close. Stay quiet. Do exactly what I say. He kicked open the door. They ran into darkness, into pines and shadows and cold northern air. Behind them, the cabin's windows exploded inward, and Danton Cray's war entered its final phase. Trapped, hunted, outgunned. But sometimes the hunted become hunters. And Rylan Shore has been invisible long enough. Time to show Danton Cray what a real soldier looks like when you threaten his daughter. Glass crunched under Rylan's boots as he vaulted through the cabin's back door. Miri clung to his chest, arms locked around his neck, face buried against his shoulder. Her stuffed bear dangled from one hand, dragging through pine needles as Rylan sprinted into darkness. Behind them, men's voices shouted coordinates. Flashlight beams cutting through night like searchlights hunting prey. Celeste stumbled after him, laptop bag bouncing against her hip, branches whipping her face. Her designer jeans and cashmere sweater were laughably wrong for wilderness escape, but survival didn't care about wardrobe choices. This way, Rylan hissed, changing direction without breaking stride. Stay low. Where are we going? Away from them. Not a plan, just momentum. But momentum kept you alive when strategy failed. Gunfire cracked through the forest. Bark exploded from a tree 6 inches from Celeste's head. She bit back a scream, legs pumping harder, adrenaline overriding exhaustion. Rylan dropped behind a fallen log, pulling Celeste down beside him. Miri whimpered against his chest. He pressed his hand gently over her ear, whispered something Celeste couldn't hear. The child went still, trusting her father with the absolute faith only children possess. "How many?" Celeste breathed. Rylan peered over the log, counting flashlight beams. 6, maybe 7. Military formation. Professional. Danton hired mercenaries? Looks like it. Rylan's jaw tightened. Which means they won't stop until we're dead, or they are. Another bullet slammed into the log above their heads. Wood chips rained down. Miri flinched but stayed silent. "We can't outrun them," Celeste said. "No, but we can outlast them." Rylan scanned their surroundings with the practiced efficiency of someone who'd survived worse. "See that ravine? 50 yards east?" Celeste followed his gaze. Darkness and shadows and what might have been a drop-off. "I see it. On 3 we run, straight line, don't stop for anything." "What about 1? Flashlights swept closer, voices coordinating. Boots crushing undergrowth in synchronized patterns that spoke of training and discipline. 2. Celeste's heart hammered, her lungs burned, everything in her body screamed to hide, to surrender, to make this nightmare stop. 3. They ran. Rylan moved like liquid violence, Miri secured against his chest with one arm, his other hand guiding Celeste through darkness. Behind them, shouts erupted, more gunfire, bullets whining past like angry hornets. The ravine appeared without warning, one moment solid ground, the next, nothing. Rylan didn't hesitate. He jumped, pulling Celeste with him. They fell through darkness. Hit water so cold it felt like knives. Current grabbed them immediately, pulling them downstream with ruthless force. Celeste's head went under. She surfaced, gasping, laptop bag dragging her down like an anchor. "Let it go!" Rylan shouted over rushing water. "The files won't matter if you drown." She released the bag. Watched it vanish into black water, taking every piece of evidence with it. Months of investigation. Proof of murder. Her father's justice. Gone. But she was alive. The current swept them around a bend. Behind them, flashlights appeared at the ravine edge, beams searching water. Then the forest swallowed them, and the lights disappeared. Rylan guided them to shore, exhausted, soaking, shaking from cold and adrenaline. He laid Miri gently on grass, checked her over with trembling hands. She coughed up water, but breathed steadily. Her eyes opened. "That was scary, Daddy," she whispered. "I know, baby, I know." He kissed her forehead. "You were so brave." "Are the bad men gone?" "For now." Miri's eyes found Celeste, huddled nearby, arms wrapped around herself. "Is Ms. Langford okay?" "I'm okay," Celeste managed through chattering teeth. "Just cold. Daddy can make a fire. He knows how to do everything." "Not everything," Rylan said quietly, "but enough." He moved quickly, gathering dry wood from beneath overhanging rocks where rain hadn't reached. Within minutes, a small fire crackled to life. Celeste huddled close, feeling slowly returning to her fingers. "We lost everything," she said. "All the evidence, the files, the proof. We lost copies. Marcus still has the originals." Rylan wrung water from Miri's jacket, and the journalist already received her set. So did the FBI. But without the physical evidence, digital is enough, cloud backups, multiple sources. Danton can burn cabins and shoot at us all he wants. He can't delete what's already public. Celeste stared at him. "You planned for this, for losing the files." "I planned for worst-case scenarios, learned that lesson the hard way." He glanced at Miri, sleeping now, exhausted from terror. "When you've lost everything once, you prepare better the second time." "I'm sorry for dragging you into this, for putting Miri in danger. You didn't drag me. I chose this." Rylan fed another stick into the fire, "and I'd choose it again." "Why?" He looked at her across firelight, eyes reflecting flames and something deeper. "Because some fights matter more than safety, and this one matters." Celeste felt her throat tighten. This man, this impossible, brilliant, broken man, had more courage in his silence than most people possessed in their entire lives. "What now?" she asked. "Now we wait for sunrise. Then we hike to the nearest town, find a phone, contact the FBI. He paused. And we pray that Marcus and the journalist move fast enough to expose Danton before he can bury this. And if they don't, then we run as far and fast as we can, and we keep running until Miri's safe. That's not a plan, that's survival. Sometimes survival is the plan. Celeste closed her eyes, felt tears building again. Fought them back. I've never been this scared. Neither have I. Rylan's honesty cut through her defenses. But fear means we're still alive, still fighting. That's enough. She opened her eyes, met his gaze. Thank you. For saving us. For not giving up. Thank you for believing me when nobody else did. They sat in silence, watching fire dance against darkness. Two people who'd started the day as strangers and ended it as something else. Something forged in gunfire and cold water and shared terror. Miri stirred, reached out instinctively. Found Celeste's hand instead of her father's, held it while she slept. Celeste froze, looked down at the small hand in hers, at trust given without question. She likes you, Rylan said softly. I don't know anything about kids. Neither did I. You learn as you go. Celeste held Miri's hand gently, terrified of doing something wrong, but more terrified of letting go. Across the fire, Rylan watched them, and for the first time in 4 years, something besides survival flickered in his chest. Hope. Morning came cold and gray. They walked. No phones, no GPS, just memory and instinct guiding them through wilderness towards civilization. Miri rode on Rylan's shoulders, chattering about birds and trees and whether bears were real or made up like dragons. Celeste walked beside them, muscles screaming, feet blistered, but refusing to complain. She'd spent her life in boardrooms and corner offices. This raw, physical survival was foreign territory, but she was learning. 3 hours later, they stumbled onto a state highway. A gas station materialized like salvation. Fluorescent lights, concrete, the smell of coffee and gasoline. Inside, Rylan used the payphone, called numbers from memory, spoke in clipped, efficient tones that belonged to his old life. Celeste bought coffee and granola bars with cash. Watched news on the television mounted above the register. Then she saw it, her face, on the screen, alongside Rylan's. Wanted for questioning in connection with corporate fraud and embezzlement. Celeste Langford, CEO of Aeravax Corporation, and Rylan Shore, an employee, are considered armed and dangerous. The cashier looked up, looked at the screen, looked at Celeste. Recognition flashed across her face. Rylan, Celeste said quietly, we need to go. Now. He heard the tone, ended his call immediately. Scooped up Miri. They were out the door before the cashier could reach for her phone. But as they disappeared into trees behind the gas station, Celeste saw police lights in the distance already responding. Danton Cray wasn't just hunting them anymore. He'd turned them into criminals, and the entire state was helping him do it. When the law becomes your enemy and the truth becomes a crime, where do you run? Rylan and Celeste are about to discover that sometimes the only way out is through, straight into the heart of the beast. Don't miss what happens when a CEO and a soldier decide they're done running. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next chapter. And drop a comment telling us, would you risk everything for the truth or play it safe? Your answer might inspire someone else to be brave. The motel room smelled like cigarettes and defeat. $20 cash. No ID required. The kind of place where nobody asked questions because nobody wanted answers. Celeste sat on the edge of a bed that sagged in the middle, staring at her hands like they belonged to someone else. Miri slept in the other bed, finally peaceful after hours of fear and running. Rylan stood at the window, watching the parking lot through nicotine-stained curtains, posture rigid with vigilance that never seemed to fade. We're fugitives, Celeste said, voice flat, empty. Actual fugitives. Temporary status. Rylan didn't turn from the window. Once the evidence goes public, they'll realize Danton lied. And how long will that take? Days? Weeks? She laughed bitterly. I'm wanted for embezzlement. My face is on every news station. My company, my father's company, is being run by his murderer while I hide in a motel that rents by the hour. You're alive. That's what matters. Is it? Because right now, being dead might be simpler. Rylan turned. His expression carried no judgment, just understanding. I know that feeling. Had it every day for 2 years after the court-martial. Woke up thinking maybe disappearing would be easier than fighting. What stopped you? Miri, she needed me more than I needed escape. He moved away from the window, sat in the plastic chair across from Celeste. You asked me earlier how I survived losing everything. The answer is, I didn't. I just learned to live with the loss. That's not inspiring. It's not supposed to be. It's supposed to be honest. Celeste met his eyes, saw the weight he carried, years of humiliation and survival and quiet rage that never quite burned out. Do you ever wish you'd fought differently, harder? Every day. But wishing doesn't change the past, only the future. What future? Danton's winning, again. Just like he won against you. He hasn't won yet. Rylan pulled out his burner phone. The journalist published 40 minutes ago. FBI opened an official investigation 30 minutes ago. Danton's frozen out of accessing corporate accounts as of 27 minutes ago. Celeste's head snapped up. What? While we were running, the wheels kept turning. Marcus sent everything to 7 different media outlets. 3 picked up the story immediately. Financial networks are covering it live. He handed her the phone, displaying a news article. Aeravax CEO accused of murder. Corporate conspiracy exposed. Celeste read frantically. Every detail laid bare. The poisoning, the helicopter sabotage, the offshore accounts, Danton's military history, the manufactured court-martial, everything. This is... Her voice cracked. This is real. People know. People know, and they're angry. Stock trading's been halted. Board of directors called emergency session. Federal prosecutors issued warrants. Rylan allowed himself a small, grim smile. Danton's empire is collapsing. But we're still wanted. For now. Until the investigation confirms what we already know, that Danton manufactured those charges too. Should take a few hours, maybe less. Celeste stared at the article, at her father's name vindicated, at truth finally visible after 6 months of lies. Tears blurred the words. She didn't wipe them away. My father would have been proud, she whispered. He'd be proud of you, not the article. You, for fighting. She looked up. I didn't do this alone. Neither did I. The moment stretched between them, something unspoken shifting into focus. Recognition that they'd become more than allies, more than survivors thrown together by circumstance. Partners. In every sense that mattered. Celeste stood, crossed the small space between them, held out her hand. Rylan took it, stood, held her gaze. When this is over, she said quietly, I want you to know something. What? You're not invisible anymore, not to me, not to anyone who matters. His jaw tightened, emotion flickering across features usually locked in careful control. Celeste. I mean it. Whatever happens next, whether I get the company back or lose everything, you're not just the janitor who saved my life. You're... She paused, searching for words. You're the best person I know. Rylan's hand tightened around hers. You barely know me. I know you protected your daughter at the cost of your own justice. I know you risked everything to help me when you had every reason to walk away. I know you're braver than anyone I've ever met. She paused. That's enough. He stepped closer, close enough that she could feel his breath, see the scars he carried, physical and otherwise. If we survive this, we will. If we survive this, he repeated carefully, what then? Then we rebuild, together, however that looks. I'm a single dad with a criminal record and no career. You're a CEO with a company to save. Those worlds don't mix. They do if we choose them to. Rylan searched her face, looking for doubt, for hesitation, for the inevitable moment when reality would override emotion and she'd realize the impossibility of what she was suggesting. He didn't find it. Instead, he found certainty, determination, and something that looked dangerously like hope. Celeste, he started to speak. His phone rang. They both froze. Unknown number, he answered cautiously. Yes? Mr. Shore. This is Special Agent Keisha Morrison, FBI. I need you and Miss Langford to turn yourselves in immediately. Rylan's grip on the phone tightened. Why would we do that? Because you're in danger. Danton Cray has been arrested, but he's not working alone. We've identified at least 3 co-conspirators still active. One of them is tracking your location right now. Her voice hardened. You have maybe 20 minutes before they find you. Get to a populated area, police station, hospital, anywhere public. We're sending local law enforcement to extract you. How did you get this number? Your journalist contact forwarded it. Mr. Shore, this isn't a trick. Your lives are in immediate danger. Move. Now. The line went dead. Rylan looked at Celeste. We need to go. Was that? FBI says Danton's arrested, but we're still targets. Co-conspirators coming for us. How soon? 20 minutes, maybe less. Celeste moved immediately, scooped up Miri, wrapping the sleeping child in a jacket. Where? Police station, 2 miles north. Rylan grabbed the motel room key. Can you run? Watch me. They burst from the room into cold morning air. Across the parking lot, onto the street. Behind them, a black sedan pulled into the motel lot. 3 men exited, professional, armed, scanning. Rylan saw them, grabbed Celeste's arm. Faster. They ran. Down residential streets lined with houses where normal families live normal lives. Where the biggest crisis was traffic or late bills, or what to make for dinner, where fugitives and mercenaries didn't shatter morning quiet with gunfire, except now they did. Bullets shattered a mailbox 10 feet ahead. Rylan swerved, pulling Celeste down an alley. Miri woke, startled, clinging tight. Daddy, what's happening? Just a game, baby. Hold on tight. A car screeched to a halt at the alley entrance, blocking their exit. 2 more men climbed out, trapped. Rylan's mind calculated exits, angles, possibilities. All of them ended badly. He couldn't fight 5 armed men while protecting Celeste and Miri. Couldn't run, they were surrounded. Couldn't negotiate, these men weren't interested in talking. For the first time since this nightmare started, he saw no way out. The men advanced slowly, confident, taking their time. Celeste pressed against Rylan's back. What do we do? I don't know. The honesty hit harder than any lie. This was it, the end they'd been running from. The inevitable conclusion when ordinary people fought powerful men. Rylan shifted Miri behind him, put himself between the guns and his daughter, met Celeste's eyes. I'm sorry. Don't. We're not done yet. Celeste. Sirens erupted from every direction. Police cars flooded the alley from both ends. FBI vehicles. SWAT. A helicopter overhead. Every agency converging simultaneously in a coordinated extraction that looked like military precision. The mercenaries froze, calculated, dropped their weapons. They were professionals. They knew when a contract was over. FBI agents swarmed the alley, secured the mercenaries, created a protective perimeter around Rylan, Celeste, and Miri. Agent Morrison approached, tall, professional, carrying authority like a weapon. You're safe now. Let's get you somewhere secure. Celeste's legs gave out. Rylan caught her. Held her while she shook, adrenaline crashing into exhaustion and relief so intense it felt like pain. It's over, he whispered. It's over. She looked up. Is it? Yeah. This time, it is. They loaded into FBI vehicles. Drove through Chicago streets suddenly familiar again. Safe again. Real again. At FBI headquarters, they gave statements, answered questions, confirmed details. The evidence Marcus had sent, combined with the journalist's investigation, painted a picture so damning that Danton Cray's legal team couldn't spin it away. Murder, conspiracy, corporate fraud, attempted murder, multiple counts. The charges kept stacking. By evening, Danton Cray was in federal custody without bail. By midnight, the board of directors reinstated Celeste as CEO. By dawn, the media declared her a hero who'd exposed corruption at the cost of her own safety. Celeste stood in her father's office, her office now, watching sunrise paint Chicago gold, the same city, the same view, but everything different. The door opened. Rylan entered, Miri holding his hand. Thought you might be here, he said quietly. Couldn't sleep. Too many thoughts. Celeste turned. Did the lawyers finalize everything? All charges dropped, records expunged, your name cleared. He paused. Mine too. Good, that's... She stopped, started over. What happens now? For you and Miri? I don't know. Haven't had time to think about it. He glanced at his daughter, who'd wandered to the window, pressing her face against glass. Guess we figure out what normal looks like again. What if I have a suggestion? I'm listening. Celeste took a breath. Aeravax needs a new head of aviation safety, someone who actually understands aircraft systems, someone brilliant and principled and impossible to corrupt. She met his eyes. Someone exactly like you. Rylan stared. Celeste, it's not charity. It's justice, and it's practical. You're the most qualified person I know. She stepped closer. And selfishly, I want you here, want Miri here, want to see where this, she gestured between them, whatever this is, could go. I'm not CEO material. Neither was I until 6 months ago. We learn as we go. He held her gaze, searching for doubt again, finding none. If I say yes, say yes. Things will be complicated. Miri comes first, always. I wouldn't want it any other way. And I don't do politics or corporate games. I just do the work. Perfect. I'll handle the politics. Celeste smiled. Deal? Rylan looked at Miri, at the city beyond, at the future suddenly visible after years of darkness. Deal, he said. Justice served, truth exposed. But the real story, it's just beginning. Because when a CEO and a soldier choose each other, they don't just rebuild a company, they redefine what's possible. One more chapter left. Subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the epic conclusion. And tell us in the comments, do you believe in second chances? Share your story. You never know who needs to hear it. The investor presentation was supposed to be routine. Celeste stood backstage at Chicago's premier conference center, adjusting her blazer for the 7th time, trying to channel confidence she didn't quite feel. 6 weeks since Danton's arrest. 6 weeks rebuilding trust, restructuring leadership, convincing shareholders that Aeravax wasn't just surviving, it was thriving. But today's demonstration mattered more than any boardroom speech. Today, they were unveiling their new aviation safety protocols, the systems Rylan had designed, the innovations that would make Aeravax the gold standard in the corporate flight operations. And today, someone had sabotaged the demonstration helicopter. Again. How bad? Celeste asked the lead technician. Bad. Someone corrupted the flight computer overnight. System registers false data. Pilot won't know they're in danger until it's too late. The technician's face was pale. Ma'am, if anyone flies that bird, they die. Celeste's blood ran cold. Danton's in prison. How? Co-conspirators. Has to be. FBI didn't catch everyone. In the main hall, 500 investors and industry leaders waited. Television cameras broadcasting live. The entire aviation world watching to see if Aeravax could rebuild trust. And she had nothing to show them except a sabotaged helicopter and shattered credibility. Cancel it, Celeste said. Tell them mechanical issues. Cancel and we lose everything. Rylan appeared beside her, calm despite the crisis. Stock price crashes. Investors flee. Everything we've rebuilt collapses. We can't fly a sabotaged aircraft. That's suicide. We can if we fix it first. There's no time. Presentation starts in 10 minutes. Then I fly it now, before the presentation. Prove the systems work. Rylan met her eyes. Let me do this. Absolutely not. If something goes wrong, it won't. You don't know that. Yes, I do. His voice carried absolute certainty. I designed these protocols. I know every system, every backup, every fail-safe. If anyone can fly that helicopter safely, it's me. Celeste's heart hammered. Rylan, I can't ask you to... You're not asking. I'm volunteering. He glanced toward the main hall. Those people out there, they need to see that Aeravax means safety, that we put lives before profit, that we're different now. He paused. Let me show them. And if you die proving a point, then Miri will know I died doing something that mattered. That's better than hiding. Celeste wanted to scream, to forbid him, to protect him the way he'd protected her, but she saw the resolve in his eyes. the soldier who'd been broken and rebuilt, choosing courage over fear one more time. The sabotage, she said carefully. You can override it? Yes, manually. It'll be ugly and dangerous, but survivable. How dangerous? Very, but I've flown worse. She closed her eyes, saw her father's face, remembered his voice. Sometimes the only way through is through. Okay, she whispered, but I'm coming with you. Celeste, non-negotiable. If you're risking your life for my company, I'm risking mine beside you. She opened her eyes. Together. That's how this works. Rylan stared at her, then slowly nodded. Together. They walked onto the demonstration pad. The helicopter sat gleaming under spotlights, beautiful, deadly, a trap designed to destroy everything they had built. Rylan ran his pre-flight check with military precision. Celeste climbed into the co-pilot seat, hands trembling, trying to remember the emergency protocols he'd taught her during late-night strategy sessions that had somehow become something more. Trust me, Rylan said quietly, strapping in. I do. He started the engine. Inside the conference hall, screens flickered to life. Live feed from the helicopter's cameras, 500 faces turned upward, watching. Celeste's voice came through the PA system, steady despite her terror. Ladies and gentlemen, what you're about to witness is why Aeravax leads the industry in aviation safety. Our new protocols don't just prevent failures, they overcome them. Even when systems are compromised, our design ensures survival. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Compromised? What did that mean? Rylan lifted off. The helicopter rose smoothly. Too smoothly. The corrupted flight computer feeding false data, hiding the danger underneath. At 50 feet, the first warning alarm triggered. At 70 feet, the stabilizer began to fail, exactly as designed by whoever sabotaged it. Rylan's hands moved across controls with inhuman speed, shutting down automated systems, engaging manual overrides, flying the helicopter the old way, by feel and instinct and years of training that no computer corruption could touch. The aircraft wobbled. Dipped. Celeste's stomach dropped. Below, the crowd gasped. Cameras zoomed in. Trust the design, Rylan said through gritted teeth. He executed a maneuver that should have been impossible, a controlled descent while manually overriding 3 separate failing systems simultaneously. The kind of flying that existed only in military textbooks and emergency simulations. The helicopter stabilized. Rylan climbed again, this time without false data, without computer assistance, just pure skill. He performed a series of complex maneuvers, demonstrated the safety protocols working even under catastrophic failure, showed the world that Aeravax aircraft didn't just fly, they survived. 5 minutes later, he landed perfectly. The conference hall erupted in applause. Celeste climbed out on shaking legs. Rylan followed, calm as if he'd just driven to the grocery store instead of cheating death on live television. Investors surged forward, questions flying, congratulations, shock, awe. But Celeste only saw Miri. The little girl stood at the edge of the demonstration pad, security guard holding her hand, tears streaming down her face, terrified, relieved, angry. Rylan moved immediately, dropped to his knees. Hey, baby! You promised, Miri's voice broke. You promised no more scary stuff. I know, I'm sorry. He pulled her into his arms. But I had to. People needed help. I need you, she sobbed into his shoulder. You're my daddy. You can't die. I'm not going to die. You almost did. I saw it. She pulled back, small face furious through tears. Why do you always have to be the hero? Why can't someone else do it? Rylan had no answer, because she was right. He did always choose danger. Always put himself between disaster and others. Because that's what soldiers did, what fathers did, what heroes did, even when heroism hurt the people they love most. Celeste knelt beside them. Miri, your daddy just saved a lot of people. I don't care about other people. I care about him. Miri's fury turned on Celeste. And you let him do it. You should have stopped him. You're right, I should have. Celeste's voice stayed gentle. But your daddy is really, really brave. And sometimes brave people have to do scary things. Being brave is stupid. Sometimes, Celeste agreed, but it's also important. Why? Because if brave people didn't do stupid things, bad people would always win. And your daddy doesn't let bad people win. Miri stared at her, then at Rylan, then back at Celeste. Are you brave too? I'm trying to be. Your daddy's teaching me. Is he your boyfriend now? The question hung in the air. Adults froze. Miri waited for an answer with the brutal honesty only children possess. Celeste looked at Rylan. He looked back, something unspoken passing between them. Would that be okay? Celeste asked carefully. If he was? Miri considered this. Wiped her nose on her sleeve. I guess, but only if you promise to stop letting him do scary stuff. Deal. And you have to come to my school play next week. I'll be there. And you have to like pancakes, because Daddy makes pancakes on Saturdays, and I won't share if you don't like them. Celeste smiled. I love pancakes. Okay then. Miri turned back to Rylan. You can have a girlfriend, but no more almost dying. Promise. I promise, Rylan said, and meant it. The crowd pressed closer. Questions. Interviews. Celeste and Rylan fielded them together, professional and united, while Miri held both their hands. By evening, every major news outlet ran the story, not just the successful demonstration, not just the sabotage attempt, but the human element, a CEO and a former soldier rebuilding a company through courage and trust. By midnight, Aeravax stock prices hit record highs. By morning, Celeste had 17 new partnership offers, but the only thing that mattered was the text she received at 2 a.m. From Rylan, can't sleep. Want to talk? She called instead of texting. Hey. His voice carried exhaustion and something else. Relief, maybe, or gratitude. You okay? I am. You? Yeah. Miri finally fell asleep. Took 3 stories and 2 songs. He paused. She really likes you? I really like her. She asked me tonight if you were going to be her new mom. Celeste's breath caught. What did you tell her? I told her that grown-up relationships are complicated. That's a very diplomatic answer. I'm learning from the best. He paused. But between us, without the diplomacy, yes, I'd like to see where this goes, slowly, carefully, with Miri's needs first, but he took a breath. I haven't felt this way about someone in a very long time, maybe ever, and I think you feel it too. Celeste closed her eyes. I do. So what do we do about it? We take it one day at a time, one pancake breakfast at a time, one school play at a time. She smiled. And we see if a CEO and a soldier can build something that lasts. Sounds like a plan. It sounds terrifying. Most good things are. They talked until sunrise, about everything and nothing, about fears and hopes and what normal might look like after 6 weeks of chaos. And when morning came, Celeste knew with absolute certainty. This was just the beginning. Love forged in fire, trust built through crisis, a family created from broken pieces. But every new beginning comes with challenges, and someone's not happy about Rylan and Celeste's happy ending. One final chapter remains, the conclusion you won't see coming. Subscribe now and turn on notifications so you don't miss it. Drop a comment. Do you believe in second chance love? Tell us your story. Your courage might inspire someone else to take a leap of faith. See you in the final chapter. The helicopter hovered 200 feet above downtown Chicago. Rylan's hands rested lightly on the controls, movements subtle and precise, performing a demonstration flight for the International Aviation Safety Conference. Below, cameras tracked his every move. Inside the cabin, 3 industry regulators observed, taking notes, assessing whether Aeravax's new protocols truly represented the future of corporate aviation. This wasn't just a flight, it was validation, proof that Rylan Shore belonged in this cockpit, in this career, in this life he'd rebuilt from ashes. In the co-pilot seat, Celeste monitored instruments, calling out readings with the competence she'd developed over 3 months of intensive training. Learning aviation wasn't required for a CEO. But learning Rylan's world was. Approaching demonstration marker Alpha, she announced. Copy, Rylan responded, initiating emergency descent protocol. He guided the helicopter into a controlled descent that mimicked engine failure, the kind of scenario that killed inexperienced pilots and terrified passengers. But under Rylan's hands, the aircraft moved with balletic grace. Auto rotation perfect, landing zone acquired, touchdown smooth as silk. The regulators applauded. "Exceptional," the lead inspector said. "Mr. Shore, I've reviewed hundreds of demonstration flights. That was textbook perfection." Rylan allowed himself a small smile. "Just following the protocols. Protocols you designed, which will likely become industry standard within the year." The inspector made a final note. "Aeravax has my endorsement, full certification approved." Celeste felt her chest tighten with pride, watched Rylan accept congratulations with quiet dignity, no arrogance, just competence recognized and validated. This was who he'd always been. The world had just forgotten. Now they were remembering. Back at Aeravax headquarters, celebration erupted. Full certification meant contracts, international expansion, everything they'd fought for secured. But in Celeste's office, away from champagne and congratulations, Rylan stood at the window looking troubled. "What's wrong?" Celeste asked. "We won. Full certification, industry endorsement. This is everything." "I know." He turned. "That's the problem. I don't understand. The sabotage 6 weeks ago, the helicopter at the conference. We assumed it was Danton's co-conspirators finishing his work." Rylan crossed his arms. "But what if it wasn't?" "What do you mean?" "FBI arrested everyone connected to Danton, traced every payment, every communication. The investigation's been thorough." He paused. "So, who sabotaged that helicopter?" Celeste felt cold settle in her stomach. "You think someone else is involved?" "I think the timing's suspicious, right before our biggest demonstration. Right when global attention was focused on us." His jaw tightened. "Someone wanted us to fail publicly, wanted Aeravax destroyed, but it wasn't Danton's people." "Then who?" Before Rylan could answer, Celeste's office door opened without knocking. Marcus entered, her father's former IT director, the man who'd helped expose Danton, who'd risked everything to send evidence to journalists and law enforcement. Celeste smiled. "Marcus, perfect timing. We just got full certification." She stopped. Saw his expression. Cold, calculating, wrong. "Marcus?" Her voice faltered. He closed the door, locked it, pulled a gun from his jacket with the casual ease of someone who'd done it before. "I'm sorry, Celeste. Really, your father was a good man, but business is business." Rylan moved immediately, positioning himself between the gun and Celeste. "What are you doing?" "Finishing what should have been finished months ago." Marcus's voice stayed level, almost apologetic. "Danton hired me 5 years ago. Paid me very well to ensure certain systems remained vulnerable, to create back doors, to make accidents possible." He gestured with the gun. "He was a great client, truly. But when he got arrested, I lost my income stream." "So you continued his work," Celeste said, understanding dawning. "The helicopter sabotage was mine, designed to destroy Aeravax's credibility, crash your stock price, force a hostile takeover by a company that would pay me even better than Danton did." He smiled. "But you two keep surviving, keep fixing things, keep ruining my plans. Marcus, you helped us. You sent the evidence to control the narrative, keep myself clean, make sure I wasn't implicated." He shrugged. "I sent real evidence about Danton, nothing about me. FBI thinks I'm a hero, and I am. Just not yours." Rylan's muscles coiled. "You won't shoot us. Too many witnesses. Too much attention." "Oh, I'm not going to shoot you. That would be obvious." Marcus pulled a second object from his pocket. Small remote. Red button. "I'm going to make you disappear." Helicopter malfunction during a celebration flight. Tragic accident. No survivors, no questions. "There's no helicopter on the roof," Celeste said. "There will be in 10 minutes. Your assistant scheduled it. Surprise celebration flight for the certification victory. Very romantic. Very tragic when it crashes into Lake Michigan." His smile widened. "And very profitable for me when Aeravax's value craters and my clients buy it for pennies." Rylan calculated angles, distance, whether he could reach Marcus before a bullet reached him. The math didn't work. "Why tell us?" Celeste asked, stalling. "Why not just blow the helicopter and be done with it?" "Professional courtesy. Your father once helped me when I needed it. This is my way of saying thank you, giving you a chance to say goodbye. Marcus checked his watch. 8 minutes. Helicopter lands in 8 minutes. You can walk to it willingly, or I can shoot you here and drag your bodies. Your choice. Third option, Rylan said quietly. There is no third option. There is. You leave. Now. Disappear before law enforcement arrives. Marcus laughed. Law enforcement isn't coming. Actually, they are. Celeste's office phone beeped, her assistant's voice. Ms. Langford, FBI agent Morrison is here. Says it's urgent. Marcus's face went pale. That's not possible. How? Because we suspected someone inside was still sabotaging operations. So we set a trap. Rylan's voice stayed calm. That remote you're holding? It's transmitting. FBI's been monitoring this office for 3 days, waiting for whoever had access to reveal themselves. He paused. You just did. The office door crashed open. FBI agents swarmed inside. Marcus raised the gun. 3 agents fired simultaneously. Marcus dropped. The remote clattered across the floor. An agent secured it immediately. Agent Morrison entered last, holstering her weapon. Mr. Shore, Ms. Langford, you okay? We're okay, Celeste managed, voice shaking. Good. Because that was incredibly stupid and brave. Morrison gestured to her team. Secure him. Medical team to the roof. Cancel that helicopter immediately. As agents worked, Morrison turned back to Rylan. You were right. Inside saboteur. Been working with Danton for years. I know. We just needed him to confess. Using yourselves as bait. Seemed efficient. Morrison shook her head. You two have a death wish. We have a company to protect, Celeste said. Different motivation, same risk. Well, it's over now. Marcus was the last one. No more co-conspirators, no more threats. Morrison paused. You can finally breathe. Celeste looked at Rylan. He looked back, and for the first time in 4 months, something like peace settled between them. Thank you, Celeste said to Morrison. Thank me by staying out of trouble. Morrison headed for the door. And maybe consider hiring security that doesn't betray you. Working on it, Celeste muttered. When the FBI left, when the office finally emptied, Celeste sank into her chair. Rylan sat across from her. Neither spoke for a long moment. That was terrifying, Celeste said finally. Yeah, I thought we were done with danger. We are now. For real this time. You sure? Reasonably sure. She laughed, exhausted, relieved. What do we do now? Now? Rylan stood, extended his hand. Now we go get Miri from school, take her for ice cream, have a normal afternoon. Normal sounds impossible. It's not, just unfamiliar. He pulled her to her feet. But we'll learn. They walked out together, through hallways now safe. Past employees now protected, into a future finally their own. That evening, Miri's school play was everything a second-grade production should be. Chaotic, adorable, slightly off-key. Miri played a tree in the forest scene, standing perfectly still for 7 minutes while delivering one line with maximum dramatic flair. Rylan and Celeste sat together in the audience, hands intertwined, watching their daughter, because that's what Miri had become, theirs, shine under stage lights. She's wonderful, Celeste whispered. She is, Rylan agreed. Thank you for sharing her with me. Thank you for loving her. That was easy. Loving you is what took courage. Rylan turned, met her eyes. I love you too, in case that wasn't obvious. It was obvious, but I like hearing it anyway. They kissed, gentle, promise-filled, interrupted by Miri yelling from the stage. Daddy, Miss Celeste, did you see me? I was a tree. Best tree I've ever seen, Rylan called back. After the play, they walked through Chicago streets, just 3 people. Family shaped by crisis, but sustained by choice. At a crosswalk, Miri looked up. Daddy, can we have pancakes tomorrow? And can Miss Celeste make them this time? I can try, Celeste said, but your dad's recipe is pretty perfect. You can learn. Daddy says everyone can learn anything if they try hard enough. Your daddy's very wise. I know. Miri squeezed both their hands. And you're gonna marry him, right? Miri, Rylan started, because if you're gonna be my mom, you should probably marry him. That's how it works. Celeste looked at Rylan. He looked at her. both thinking the same impossible, wonderful thought. Maybe someday, Celeste said carefully. Someday soon? We'll see. Miri seemed satisfied with that answer. Skipped ahead, singing her tree song off-key, oblivious to the weight and beauty of the future she'd just casually declared. Someday, Rylan repeated quietly. That sounds good. It does, Celeste agreed. Terrifying, but good. Most good things are terrifying. You keep saying that. Because it keeps being true. They walked home, Rylan's apartment that was slowly becoming their apartment, and the city stretched around them, lights and noise and possibility. Behind them, the past. Ahead, the future. Between them, Miri. And for the first time in 4 years, Rylan Shore wasn't just surviving, he was living. One chapter remains, the final sunrise, the ultimate choice, and a promise that changes everything. Subscribe and turn on notifications. You don't want to miss how this story ends. Comment below. What does a second chance mean to you? Your story could inspire someone else to believe in new beginnings. See you in the finale. Sunrise painted the rooftop helipad gold. Same rooftop where this impossible story began 6 months ago. Same Chicago skyline. Same helicopter. Repaired, recertified, perfect. But everything else had changed. Rylan stood beside the aircraft, hand resting on the fuselage with the casual intimacy of someone who'd found his place in the world again. He wore a flight suit now, not a janitor's uniform. The difference felt cosmic. Celeste emerged from the elevator, carrying 2 coffee cups and wearing jeans instead of her CEO armor. Casual, happy. Home in her own skin for the first time in years. Ready? She asked, handing him coffee. For what? He smiled, knowing exactly what. For this. She gestured to the helicopter. You said if I wanted to really understand aviation, I needed to learn to fly, so teach me. You sure? It's scary. Everything worthwhile is scary. You taught me that. They climbed into the cockpit. Rylan ran through pre-flight checks, explaining each step with the patience of someone born to teach. Celeste listened, asked questions, absorbed everything. Okay, he said finally. Your turn. What? You're flying. I've had 3 lessons. I can barely start the engine. I'll be right here, hands on controls. You won't crash. He met her eyes. Trust me. I do. She placed her hands on the controls, felt the power humming beneath her fingers, the weight of the machine, the possibility of disaster if she made one wrong move, and the absolute certainty that Rylan wouldn't let her fail. Collective up, he instructed. Gentle, feel it lift. She did. The helicopter rose smoothly, Rylan's hands hovering but not touching, letting her find her own balance. You're flying, he said quietly. I'm flying. Celeste laughed. I'm actually flying. They circled the building once, twice, Celeste growing more confident with each rotation. Below, the city woke up, cars and people in morning chaos, completely unaware that someone who'd never piloted before was hovering 200 feet above them. Ready for something harder? Rylan asked. Define harder. Land it? Absolutely not. You can do it. Just follow my instructions. He talked her through the approach. The angle, the timing, when to reduce collective, when to flare, when to settle gently onto the pad. Celeste's heart hammered, sweat dampened her palms, but she listened, trusted, and somehow, impossibly, the helicopter touched down without drama. Perfect landing. She stared at Rylan. I did that? You did that. I landed a helicopter. You did. That's insane. Welcome to aviation. He grinned. You're officially cooler than 99% of CEOs. She laughed, then cried, then laughed again, because crying felt ridiculous, but also exactly right. Thank you, she whispered. For what? For teaching me, for believing in me, for, she gestured around, for all of this. You earned it, every piece. They exited the helicopter, stood on the rooftop where their story began, where Celeste had mocked Rylan, where he'd saved her life, where everything changed. I want to ask you something, Celeste said, and you can say no. There's no pressure, no expectations, just, Celeste, ask. She took a breath. Remember on this rooftop when I said fly this helicopter and I'll marry you? I remember. You were mocking me. I was, but I'm not now. She reached into her jacket pocket, pulled out a small box, opened it. Simple ring, silver, engraved with coordinates, the exact location of this rooftop. Rylan stared. Celeste. Fly with me, not just today, not just next week, forever. Build this life together, raise Miri together, choose each other every morning even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard, she paused. Marry me, Rylan Shore, for real this time. Silent stretch between them, wind, traffic below, the city holding its breath. Rylan looked at the ring, at Celeste. At the future she was offering. I'm a single dad with a traumatic past and a job where I risk my life regularly. I know. I have terrible credit and an apartment with one bathroom. I don't care. Miri will always come first. I wouldn't want it any other way. And I snore. Loudly. Celeste laughed through tears. I can live with that. Rylan reached out, took the ring, studied it. These coordinates, the place where we met, where I was my worst self, where you were your best self, where everything started. He slipped the ring on his finger, perfect fit. Then I guess we're engaged. Is that a yes? That's a yes. She kissed him, hard, joyful. Promise and relief and love so intense it felt like gravity reversing. When they broke apart, Celeste whispered, "We're getting married. We are. I'm marrying a helicopter pilot. I'm marrying a CEO who just landed her first helicopter. We're insane." Probably. They stood there, holding each other, watching the city wake up around them. Behind them, the elevator chimed. Miri exploded onto the rooftop, wearing her school uniform and carrying her stuffed bear. "Daddy, you promised we'd fly today." "I know, baby. Come here." She ran over, stopped, saw the ring on his finger. Her eyes went wide. "Is that—" "Ms. Celeste asked me to marry her," Rylan said. "And he said yes," Celeste added quickly. Miri's face cycled through surprise, calculation, and pure joy in 3 seconds. "So, you're going to be my mom? If that's okay with you." "Duh. Of course it's okay." Miri threw her arms around both of them. "We're a family now. A real family." "We already were a family," Rylan said gently. "This just makes it official. Do I get to be in the wedding?" "You're going to be our flower girl," Celeste said. "Can I wear a princess dress? Any dress you want, even if it has glitter? Especially if it has glitter." Miri squealed. "This is the best day ever. Wait, can we tell my class, and Miss Rodriguez, and—" "We can tell everyone," Rylan laughed. "But first, how about that flight?" "Yes. Can I sit in front? Can I wear the headset? Can I press buttons?" "Some buttons, not the important ones." They loaded into the helicopter. 3 people, family, ready to fly. As Rylan started the engine, Celeste's phone buzzed. Text from the board of directors. "Congratulations on the engagement. The whole company's celebrating. Take the day off. You've earned it," she showed Rylan. He smiled. "Guess we're taking a personal day. Where should we fly?" "Anywhere, everywhere, wherever you want." Celeste thought for a moment. "Your old base, the place where you trained before everything fell apart. I want to see where you came from." Rylan's expression shifted, surprised, moved. "You sure?" "I'm sure. Your past matters. All of it. The good and the bad. I want to know every piece of who you are." "That might take a while. Good thing we have forever." The helicopter lifted off, smoothly, perfectly, rising into morning sky with Chicago falling away beneath them. Miri pressed her face against the window. "Look, I can see my school, and the park, and, Daddy, how high are we?" "High enough to see everything? I can see the whole world." "Not quite, but close." Celeste reached over, took Rylan's hand. He glanced at her, smiled, squeezed back. "I love you," she said, knowing Miri was listening, not caring. Some truths deserve to be spoken out loud. "I love you too." "And I love both of you," Miri announced. "We're the best family in the sky." They flew north, over suburbs and fields and lakes, toward the military base where Rylan's old life had ended and his new life was about to be honored, because word had spread. About the janitor who saved a CEO. About the hero who'd been forgotten and remembered. About the soldier betrayed by his country who'd never stopped serving anyway. The base commander was waiting. Full honors, recognition, apology for what had been done to him. Vindication so complete it felt like fiction. But it was real, all of it. The ceremony, the applause, the restoration of his name. And through it all, Celeste and Miri stood beside him, witnesses to his resurrection. That evening, they flew home, exhausted, happy, changed in ways they'd spend years understanding. At Rylan's apartment, their apartment now, Miri fell asleep clutching her stuffed bear and wearing her future flower girl dress. She'd insisted on trying it on 17 times. Rylan and Celeste sat on the balcony, watching the city below, fingers intertwined. 6 months ago, Celeste said, I would have told you this was impossible. It was impossible. We just did it anyway. Think we can keep doing impossible things? Every day for the rest of our lives. She leaned against him, felt his heartbeat, steady, certain, home. What are you thinking? Rylan asked. That I'm glad my helicopter broke. That I'm glad I was awful to you. That I'm glad everything went wrong so it could go right. She paused. Is that terrible? No, that's honest. He kissed the top of her head. Sometimes the best things come from the worst circumstances. Did you ever think you'd be here, engaged, happy, whole again? No, never. His voice caught slightly. I thought I'd spend my life invisible. Just surviving, just protecting Miri and hoping for nothing more. And now I get to hope, get to dream, get to build something beautiful with someone I love. He turned her face toward him. You gave that back to me, the ability to want more. You gave me something too. What? Purpose, real purpose, not just running a company or making money or maintaining reputation. Celeste's eyes shimmered. You showed me what actually matters. Family, truth, courage, fighting for what's right even when it costs everything. You already knew that. You just needed someone to remind you. Maybe, but I'm glad that someone was you. They sat in comfortable silence. Behind them, through the open door, Miri mumbled something in her sleep about helicopters and pancakes and flower girl dresses. Celeste smiled. Think we're ready for this? Marriage, parenting, forever? Absolutely not, but we'll figure it out as we go. That's not reassuring. It's not supposed to be. It's supposed to be true. She laughed. I love you, Rylan Shore. I love you, Celeste Langford, soon to be Celeste Shore. I'm keeping Langford professionally. Too much branding to change. Fair? As long as you keep me personally. Always. Above them, stars appeared. Below, the city hummed. Between them, a future unfolding one moment at a time. 6 months ago, a CEO and a janitor met on a rooftop at sunrise. She mocked him. He saved her. And neither could have predicted what would come next. But that's the thing about second chances. They arrive unexpectedly, often violently, wrapped in crisis and disaster and everything wrong. And if you're brave enough, foolish enough, to grab them anyway, they transform everything. Rylan's phone buzzed. Unknown number, he answered cautiously. Yes? Operator Shore. The voice was military, official, urgent. We need you back. Rylan froze. Back where? Classified, but it's big, bigger than anything you've done. And we need the best. That's you. I'm retired. You're reinstated, full clearance restored, Medal of Valor issued, everything that was taken from you returned. Plus a promotion. Pause. We need you, Shore. Your country needs you. Rylan looked at Celeste, at the life they were building, at Miri sleeping inside, at the impossible choice suddenly thrust upon him. When? He asked. Soon. Very soon, details to follow. The line went dead. Celeste had heard everything. What are you going to tell them? Rylan stared at the phone, at the past calling him back, at duty and honor and everything he'd lost demanding one more sacrifice. Then he looked at Celeste, at Miri, at the future he'd never dared imagine. I'm going to tell them I'm exactly where I belong, and no mission, no matter how important, is worth leaving my family. You sure? I've never been more sure of anything. He tossed the phone aside, pulled Celeste closer, and chose, once and for all, the life worth living over the life worth remembering. Because some battles are won by fighting, and some are won by finally letting yourself be happy. Sunrise came again, as it always does, painting the same city. The same rooftop, the same helicopter. But nothing was the same. Rylan Shore was no longer invisible, no longer broken, no longer hiding from who he'd been or who he could be. Celeste Langford was no longer alone, no longer defined by her company or her father's shadow. No longer afraid of vulnerability. Miri had both parents, a home, security, love. And somewhere in Chicago, on a rooftop where everything changed, 3 people began the rest of their lives. Together, always together. The end. Thank you for following this journey. If this story moved you, inspired you, or reminded you that second chances are real, that broken things can be made beautiful again, then we did what we set out to do. Subscribe to this channel so you never miss stories like this. Turn on notifications. And most importantly, share your own story in the comments. Tell us about a time you got a second chance, about a moment when everything changed, about courage you didn't know you had until you needed it. Your story matters. Your courage inspires others. And the world needs more proof that redemption, love, and justice are possible, even when everything seems lost. See you in the next story. Until then, keep fighting, keep hoping, keep believing that your own rooftop moment is coming, because it is, and it will be beautiful.